Hello, everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic, and good morning, Asgard. Welcome to episode 22 of the Good Morning Asgard podcast, where today we'll talk a little bit about the box office, specifically two box office flops, one of which has just come out, but I am going to predict right now will indeed be a box office flop, and that is Space Jam 2, and Black Widow, which in its second weekend saw a pretty sizable drop, and based on the numbers available and based on history of box office numbers in general, is very likely going to end up as a box office flop. But before going any further into that, please make sure that you smash that like button if you're watching on YouTube. Unfortunately, the Odyssey page is not giving me a stream key like it normally does. So unfortunately, I am not able to get the stream going up over on Odyssey like I normally am, because it is simply not allowing me to do so. I'm tried now going to different browsers even, and gone to the Go Live button, and normally it gives you a stream key that you can enter in, and then that way you can, of course, stream to whatever live stream you set up. But I have the event set up on the page. I can go to the event, but there is no stream key. And with no stream key, I cannot stream. So I know that Odyssey has been having a couple of weird issues as of late, so I'm not too surprised by it. But if you usually watch on Odyssey, or if you're listening back or watching back to that, that is the reason why it is not currently available over on that platform. But anyway, hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Thank y'all for being here today. Let's say hello to some people. We got Laura Story. What's going on, Laura? Thank you for being here. One of the Chosen of Valhalla. By the way, we had a great Chosen of Valhalla live stream yesterday. Went almost for 4 hours, and it was a lot of fun. And speaking of which, one of the Chosen, Andrew Hoyle, one of my UK brethren, because of timing issues, has not been able to join us the last few times, and so I'm going to bring him on probably around 9:45 Eastern time, so in about 42 minutes or so, I'll bring him on, just that way I can cover all the box office stuff I want to cover, take any initial comments or questions, and then be able to have a conversation with Andrew Hoyle, who I feel really bad about the timing issues that have been very consistent with the Chosen streams. So one way to try and make it up to him as best I can. So be on the lookout for that in a little bit. But trying to do what I can. Anyway, let's say hello to some more people. Andrew Hoyle, there he is, the man, the myth, the legend, in the chat. Thank you for joining this morning, and appreciate you joining me a little bit later into the stream. Hopefully we can get the Discord working for you, so that way in future streams, if you're able to join us, because I think that's what the route we're going to go, is just using Discord, since it seemed to work pretty well for most everybody, and also it works better on mobile devices than what Hangouts is using. And also Discord is actually a supported program, whereas Hangouts really isn't anymore. I think people are still always surprised whenever I mention that I use Hangouts. They say, wait, I didn't even think Hangouts existed anymore now that there's Google Meet and all of these other services that exist now. But yeah, I don't know exactly how it's been continuing to work either. JKDBuck76, welcome. Good morning to you. Glad to see you here. JKDBuck76, who is a member, says, I'd rather watch Pluto Nash and then Gummy, and then Leonard Part 6, and then The Guy from Harlem, then watch Soy Jam 2. Well, you're not the only one, because even though, for some reason, all of the shill media is saying, oh man, Space Jam 2 did some amazing numbers this weekend, probably because it overperformed based on what they thought the film was going to do, doesn't mean that the film did well, especially when they seem to be forgetting the film cost a pretty heavy amount of money, around $150 million. By the way, anyone looking at that movie and the effects in that movie, do you honestly believe that that film cost $150 million to make? I don't know where that money went, but it sure as heck did not go into the actual story, did not go into the actual effects. And I haven't even seen the darn film yet. And I don't want to. But I have a feeling that I'm going to have to. Because I have HBO Max. It is available for free via HBO Max. But I don't even want to give it a view. I don't even want to give it even a small metric for HBO Max to be able to say, oh, look, people are watching it in droves. So there might be some alternate ways to watch it, which, by the way, would not be problematic because I have a service that provides it. I would just be watching it through something else. Maybe. Not guaranteed. What's the word I'm looking for? Allegedly. Allegedly, of course. But what would I know about that? ZK Man, what is going on, good sir? Another one of my chosen. Thanks for being here. Trent Johnson, what is going on? Glad to see you here in the chat today. We indeed have two wrenches in the chat. Thank you, Tina and Laura, for both being here this morning. I appreciate. Yeah, Trent Johnson, man. Yeah, it's really sad to see the Odyssey issues going on. I know that towards the end of the stream yesterday, some people were having issues. Part of that might be because I don't think that Odyssey is built to have longer streams, especially. So that could be why. But yeah, I don't know why the stream keys, for some reason, are not showing up the way that they should. It's really sad because I've been enjoying streaming to alternate platforms. But luckily, you don't have to watch on YouTube because I am live on DLive. I am live on Periscope or whatever it's called now. Somehow it still works and is integrated into Twitter, even though technically Periscope does not exist as a company anymore. But yeah, it's very sad because I was so looking forward to watching Odyssey grow this summer and to really trying to work with them and really push them. But it's really hard to when people that I send over there are having as many issues as they are. And obviously it's growing pains. It's a newer service as far as streaming is concerned. And so that is to be expected. And I'm going to continue to support them and have my videos upload over there for sure. But yeah, it's hard for me to justify sending a bunch of people over there if it's not going to work. Liquid Blake, new name there. Same person though. What's going on? Welcome back to the chat. Jaggin75, what is going on? Welcome back. Yeah, that's basically been the very consistent theme. Everyone's been like, this movie's not very good. It's not very good. Alex, what's going on? Metalong, welcome back to the chat. Glad to see you here. Thank you again for being here. Tina B, is it correct if you have a comment or question at any point today, put @Odin at the very beginning of your comment. @Odin, all you need to do at the very beginning of your comment. By the way, thank you everyone for being so understanding of streams and videos being delayed and that kind of stuff because of Baby Thor. Baby Thor is officially back at daycare today. So hopefully he remains healthy for the week, and that will allow for these streams to be on the longer end like they normally had been for the few days that we had that when he wasn't sick at daycare. But obviously I have my phone next to me just in case anything does happen to happen. But things seem to be going well so far. But yes, Tina B, thank you for letting everyone know. If you are a member on the channel, though, one of the perks of being a member is that you don't have to tag. You can just speak. However, I do ask that if you're talking to someone else or you don't want the comment read aloud or anything like that, that you tag other people in it instead. Laura Story tagged and says, I just heard Space Jam 2 is 2 hours. What the hell? Yeah, seriously. Absolutely. Not only is the movie featuring LeBron James, and that's bad enough as it is, but then you have 2 hours of LeBron James. I don't think anyone, even basketball fans, would want to see LeBron James act for 2 hours. Or, correction, try to act for 2 hours. Mr. Grant, no idea why you can't hear me. I think everyone else can. Normally, I would be getting the, I can't hear you, can't hear you. So I don't know what was going on with that. So you might just need to refresh, assuming that you are, of course, watching over on YouTube as such. Let us see. JKDBuck76 says, it will be a cold day in Hades before I watch any movie with LeClown James, the CCP shill. Yeah, what I found interesting, and I mentioned this in the box office breakdown this morning, is that there are no numbers out of China for the movie. I don't know if the movie is getting a release in China, which I find interesting personally because Warner Brothers has had a pretty cozy relationship with them. Remember, Godzilla vs. Kong made the CCP, made the communists a lot of money earlier in the summer. And I would assume that because not only are Warner Brothers buddy-buddy with them, but then LeBron James, of course, very much buddy-buddy with them too, that it would be a sure hit with the communist in China. A sure hit to be able to be released in China, but it is not for some reason. And by the way, I just realized that Mr. Grant is watching over on Periscope. Okay, gotcha. That makes more sense. So, and he says there, it was on mute. Okay, there we go. I had not looked at the symbol because normally people don't watch on Periscope. So it's always interesting when people do. But thank you for being here. Good sir. Tina B says, Odin, 140 million went to Le Pen. The other 10 million was for that Michael Burnham woman and the CGI. Oh Lord, yeah. That is the only thing I can really think of, is that the only issue with that logic, Tina, is that budget, the production budget, does not really usually include how much they pay the actors. Normally, the production budget is how much did the actual filming cost. So how much did it cost to actually put everything onto digital, post-production, pre-production, that kind of stuff. Normally, to my knowledge, it does not include the actual contracts, the actual payments due to actors, especially since actors' contracts can usually be very complicated because it's not just you get this X amount of money. Normally, there's also you get X amount of certain merchandising sales, you get X amount of opening weekend ticket sales, and that kind of thing. So it's sometimes very difficult to really determine all of those different factors. But that would not surprise me. It would not surprise me at all. Andrew Hoyle says, I'm glad I have no idea who this LeBron is. Yeah, you are better off not knowing who this dude is. By the way, Mr. Grant Gregory, thank you very much, Mr. Grant Gregory, for becoming a member at the Citizen of Asgardian level. Very much appreciate that. Trent Johnson says, we all have trials and tribulations that we go through, and yours is forcing yourself to watch LeBron James. But I don't want to. I don't want to, Trent. Don't make me. Trent, don't make me. Don't make me watch the movie. Well, Gentry, what's going on? Good sir, thanks for being here. Gary Banjo Sandwich, hope you had a wonderful weekend at the con. He says, had a great time at my con and took great photos. Awesome, Gary Banjo Sandwich Worthington. Go check him out. I think he said that he had some videos up on the channel as well covering the event. So go support him as well. Mr. Grant Gregory, who is now a member, says, support is important. Also, stability is too. This is indeed very, very true. Very, very true indeed. He then tagged and says, are you getting baby Thor a Loki gator? Probably not. Though I will say Loki gator has to have been the best part of the entire Loki series. I think that is going to be a takeaway. Similar to how in The Mandalorian, the biggest takeaway from that series was, Baby Yoda, right? It was the most successful thing. People who had never watched the show and probably never will watch the show knew who Baby Yoda was and probably even have a Baby Yoda. I have a feeling, not to the same extent, obviously, but I would not be surprised if Loki Gator is kind of like a smash hit success as well. And I will say this much. Loki Gator was at the very least comically stupid, but also funny for what it was. JKD Buck tagged and says, I guess when Space Sham 2 tanks, the movie makers and their shills will call us istophobes. Yeah, probably. And the fake BBC headline that was making the rounds the other day, there's a great fake BBC account on Twitter, and it puts out fake headlines. And one of the fake headlines was LeBron James claims racism for Space Jam 2 not performing well. It might actually end up turning out to be true. Because, to be honest, is that really not something that LeBron James would say? I think it would. I think it absolutely would be something that he would say. So maybe that story that was originally meant to be satire will actually... It's kind of like what you see with going on with Babylon Bee. There's so many Babylon Bee articles where you look at them and you say, oh, these are either kind of true now or they very well could be true. We live in such a crazy world today that these insane things can be true. Then does Felice it does. Exactly. The OG Space Jam was an hour and a half, and that is exactly how long it should have been. When we talk about animated movies or movies like Space Jam, where it's clearly meant to be for kids, right? It's very kid-centric, and it is dealing with animation. 90 minutes is the sweet spot. That's what most films should strive for in that marketplace. Because a kid sitting down for a 2-hour movie, that's going to be pretty hard for them to keep their attention. So, yeah, obviously that's a clear problem with direction and editing, because that movie should not have been that long. And then the fact that they spent $150 million on that movie as well, and it doesn't show, at least in any of the trailers, kind of makes you wonder where that money really went. Mr. Grant Gregory says, I was on Periscope and moved over here to YouTube. Thank you. And thank you for becoming a member as well. Disgrace Jam 2. That's what J.K.D. Buck says. Laura then says, I did hear yesterday that Black Widow is getting a China release. Is that the case? Let's go ahead and see if that is indeed the case. Though, by the time it gets released in China, it will have been it would have been released for so long, I don't know if it would be able to make any money in China. So this, according to the latest article from Deadline, let's see here. Let me try and get this up on the screen. That way we can get an official news report style going over here. But as always, I need to recapture the window as such. There we go. So let's go ahead and transition that over there. Boom. Beautiful. And then I can take it out of studio mode. Perfect. All right, here is the latest. Oh, wait a minute. Why? Sorry. It looked like things were peaking for some reason. Or at least maybe a sound came through. Apologies if that was the case. Desktop audio was still on from the Chosen stream yesterday, so I don't know if it did or not. All right, anyway, here is currently what it says. Black Widow at 264 million global. Still no word on China release. That is the current word. It says update. Disney Marvel's Black Widow narrowly led the international box office for Hollywood films this weekend, grossing an additional 29.9 million from 48 material markets. That's a 55% drop from opening, which most agree is decent, even if there's no getting around the fact that these are not marvelous numbers. Oh, Deadline. So funny. The overseas total is now even with domestic at $132 million for $264 million global. Contrary to last weekend, Disney did not break out streaming figures this time around. Really? Disney, where are those numbers? You very easily released those numbers last weekend. What happened? Are you afraid to release the numbers because they are a lot worse than last weekend? Are you afraid to release them because people are already asking a lot of questions in general? I don't know. And then here we go with the excuses. Look at Scarlett Johansson's star, as did other films in this session, had to contend with increased closures in Australia, as well as further restrictions in Korea and Japan, and fine weather for a change in the UK. What? What in the world does that have to... Oh my goodness. I understand that usually people will not go. The logic is that if it's raining outside, people would not want to go outside to drive to a theater. But from my experience working in a movie theater, it actually goes both ways, because rainy days are sometimes the best days to go to a movie because it's raining outside. You can't do anything outside, and so people will go to the theater. I remember one time we had a massive thunderstorm, so powerful, in fact, that the train, which was across from my theater, like not like right across, it was probably maybe like in a distance, a half mile or a mile away, but it was like visible. The wind was so powerful, the train got knocked off its tracks. Luckily, no one got seriously injured from it. But we had people in that storm, in their cars, waiting for the storm to blow over so that they could come see their movie. Even though we were obviously having power flickers and power issues because it was essentially like a mini hurricane, even though it wasn't a hurricane. And people would still sit in their cars wanting to go see a movie. So that logic of, oh, there was nice weather in the UK, so that might be a reason why the film didn't do well? I guess the logic being, oh, people want to be outside and not in a theater. Again, it's just interesting how they work out this logic. It held number 1 in Brazil, Korea, Italy, Russia, Spain, and the UK. Not in the United States, though. And that money matters a lot more because they get a lot more of the US money back than they do any of the other countries. It says, we're told the midweeks were good and that the negative 55% is on par with Fast 9's second weekend drop in the same bucket of markets. Yes, Fast 9 also had crazy numbers in China, which is also a bad thing in general. And this is not taking into account the US numbers. And even though the 67% drop in the domestic numbers isn't terrible, when you understand that the initial number is not as good, nearly as good as other Marvel films, it's not looking all that great. It says here, perhaps the biggest issue now facing Black Widow is its future in Southeast Asia, where most markets are closed, and China, where it has failed to secure a release date thus far. Those are massive Marvel plays, and the question remains whether fans will rush out to the theaters once, and if one drops, given it will be widely available to pirates. Yeah, and again, at least they do bring up that point. That is an excellent point. Even if this does get a China release, which, again, based on this 6 hours ago is when it was updated, based on this, still no official China release, even if it did get a China release, keep this in mind, even if it gets a China release, they only get 25% of the box office from those receipts, for one. Two, the movie would have been out because this movie is not going to get overnighted to China. If this movie comes out in China, it's going to be probably months away before that actually happens. So this film would have been out online long enough for the film to have been pirated a crazy number of times. And that means that the number from China would probably be pretty low. And then they only get 25% of it. And then is it really even worth putting it out in China? I think these are all questions that are worth asking. I mentioned this in my box office breakdown video, but because Black Widow has only made $264 million worldwide, that puts the range as final total being somewhere between 377 and 528. That is the best case scenario. And what that 50% max projection means is, let's say it's made 50% of its box office. So let's say it doubles this number. Then this is the number that it would look at. This is the best case scenario, is that it doubles its money. Most films tend to not double their money, though. Most films tend to make a huge chunk of their money in the first 2 weeks, normally around 60%, sometimes even more than that. So that's why with my range between 50 and 70% in the first 2 weeks, I have those numbers listed as such, because that typically is what most movies fall into. If you take any movie and you're able to find the worldwide box office for the first 2 weeks, and then you compare it to the final number, you'll probably end up getting that number. And one category I think I'm going to add very soon to my charting is the actual percentage. Like, what is the actual percentage of the final total, especially in movies later on? Because there's only really a couple of times where this charting has not been accurate, but it's for films that even most experts were like, yeah, this is vastly overperformed in every single way. But we're dealing with a situation here where you have Black Widow, which is at negative $141 million, and likely will end somewhere between negative 73 and 16 million in net gain profit. And then you're also dealing with, as I said, with Space Jam 2, that film has only made $54 million worldwide. That's a negative $192 million loss because of a $150 million budget plus marketing. And remember, too, this is not including any extra marketing cost. This is not including the fact that, especially for a film like Black Widow, which was delayed a crazy number of times, that marketing is probably a lot higher than normal. So even if you do include the $60 million that Disney claims from Disney Plus, which again I think is pretty dubious and pretty unreliable at this point, you would still be dealing with a film that's one of the lowest grossing films in Marvel history. I mentioned this earlier too. I have an entire chart of all of the Marvel films since their initial release. And what you can see from these gains and grosses, even the first Iron Man, $86 million was the actual net gain, net profit. Negative $55 million was Hulk. So we're dealing with a film that's going to be either the biggest loss in Marvel history, if it hits that $73 million loss, meaning if it slows down so much that it just has no legs at all, which is completely a possibility. But obviously, again, anything could happen. That's why I do have that range there. You theoretically could have the worst performing Marvel film in history, because it could actually end up beating out Hulk as being the lowest grossing film in MCU history. Or at the very least, it'll be like the second lowest grossing film. Because next to Hulk, you're dealing with, what, $14 million for the first Captain America film, being the lowest of the grossing movies. $14 million. So you're dealing with a film that's likely going to be somewhere between either the lowest grossing or second lowest grossing film in MCU history. Not looking good. And again, these were reported budgets. These are all numbers also that were adjusted for inflation. And I have not updated this, I think, in about a year. So obviously these numbers could be a little bit different, but that is how you would read these charts overall. But yeah, if you like box office charting in general, OMBReviews.com, go to the little tab, box office tracking. And I wish there was a better way for me to have the chart and to make it more interactive, but hey, you work with what you got. And then if you're looking for my methodology, I break it down under the Star Wars box office specifically about what box office typically studios will get and how I get to the budget number and things like that. But yeah, anyway, Black Widow, $264 million global. Not a big number for a typical Marvel movie, to be honest. Like this would be good if it was a film maybe like, you know, Ant-Man. If it was just an Ant-Man movie that cost a little bit less than the typical movie, then this might be a good number. But for Black Widow, one of the most well-known characters, one of the most well-liked characters up until this movie came out, I will say, yeah, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. But anyway, let's go back to the chat. By the way, we got a couple of super chat and stickers. We got Cornelis Schultz. What's going on? Cornelis Schultz, thank you very much for the $10 super chat. He says, love your no-nonsense takes. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you, Cornelis. I really do appreciate that. Appreciate the donation as well. And yeah, that's something that I will always strive to do. Give you my honest thoughts, honest opinions. I never want to sugarcoat anything. If this was a movie that I liked, I would be saying the same thing. I would be saying, all right, here's the reality of the situation. And even for films I don't like, I also put out the fact that, hey, there are other revenue streams that exist. There are other deals that exist that could be making up for this loss. When I mention box office numbers, I'm just talking about the raw numbers. I'm just talking about the raw box office numbers as they are reported. So we're not talking about the claimed Disney Plus numbers. We're not talking about any other marketing deals that they have, right? Because Lord knows, I didn't really notice any, but Lord knows they're in there. There's obviously probably going to be some type of product placement that happens in any of these movies. So how much money do they get from that? How much money do they get in tax credits? Will there be tax credits down the line that they could retroactively get, or tax breaks that they could retroactively get? These are things that we don't know. So all I can do is say, here's the actual numbers, here's the actual cost as they are being reported, and that's all we can say. That's all we can really know. Not to mention, there's Blu-ray 4K sales too. I don't think it's going to make it up if it's closer to negative $73 million. But if it's closer to negative 13 or something like that, that's doable. That's something where you could make that up. And I would argue that whatever the Disney Plus number is, I would say negative $13 million making up. I would say, you know what? I would believe Disney if they said, we made about $13 million from Disney Plus. I'd be like, okay, that's a believable number as a total number for me. I would buy that. When you're selling it at $30 a pop, and I know as a fact that there are people out there willing to spend money and that kind of money on that movie, yeah, I would say that's believable. But it's going to depend on how much it actually makes. Raj H, thank you very much for the Canadian super sticker, for the thumbs up. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you. All right, let's go ahead and dive back into the chat. Soul Extraction is a member. Hail to you. Thank you for being here. At 9:13... Tina says, now Warner's felt Pepe Le Pew was problematic and left him out. But the movie features characters from Clockwork Orange who were actually very problematic. I'm glad people see an issue with that. That's insane. They leave out Pepe Le Pew for being problematic. Oh, but he was a womanizer. Oh, you have a problem with a cartoon skunk being a womanizer, but you're not going to mention some of the things that happen in Clockwork Orange? I'm pretty sure there is a clear grape scene in that movie, among other things. Like, Lord, this is the idiocy of modern culture. This is the idiocy of cancel culture. It's so counterintuitive. It is so ridiculous. And they don't even realize, they don't even recognize how stupid it is. Alex says, I watched Space Jam 2, therefore you have to. Don't make me do it. Don't make me do it. Trent Johnson, laying it on thick, says, pick up your cross and bear it. Oh, is that really how I want to spend my day? The first day in over a week when I'm not having to do stay at home baby Thor dadding. I'm gonna spend 2 hours of my life. Reminder: 2 hours of my life watching Space Jam 2. I don't want to do it. John Connors, welcome to the chat. Thank you for being here today. Murray Lockery, thank you for being in the chat as well. Remember, if you have a comment or question, make sure you put @Odin. Again, at the very beginning of your comment, @Odin would really mean a lot. Cavitano Calvarymen, welcome to the chat. Gary Banjo Sandwich, thank you very much for tagging. Says, getting my Disney #Loki Gator plushie coming soon 2022. Yeah, seriously. That would pretty much be like the only thing. That would pretty much be the only thing that I would be, you know what, I would understand it. I would at least understand it. Let's see, Alex says, I think they fired the editors on this Space Jam 2. Yeah, at 2 hours, I would say that's a pretty good assessment. Nick Nero, glad that you enjoy it. We are revamping, reworking. So if people are wondering where it is, there is plans in the works. So it will eventually we'll have it back up. Eventually it'll be back up. But we're working on something bigger, something better. The Craig Lee Lawrence Experience, welcome. Thank you for being here. We got 50 people watching, says Laura. Thank you for being here. Smash that like button, please. Bryant Barth, thank you for being here. Laura Story says, Mr. H Reviews had reported on China release. Maybe he was mistaken. Yeah, and I think it all comes down to sources. I don't know what source he was using. Maybe he had his own personal sources. Maybe there's another publication that's covering it. Maybe Deadline just hasn't updated it. That I just go based on the initial, because I use DuckDuckGo, which is usually pretty good at giving you the most relevant information without having, have go through the Google promotion stuff. And that was one of the first stories that really came up about it. So I would say it's probably still true. And because that would be a big story, I would say, if it did officially get a China release. But as I said, if it does get one, it's going to be a lot further down the line, and it's not going to be enough to make up. JK76, a moment of silence for all the dollars that were wasted making and in buying of movie tickets for Space Scam 2. Yeah, seriously. Saint Ravage, welcome to the chat. Bryant Bart, thoughts on Denis Villeneuve? Bryant Barth, you have been a part of this channel for a long time now. And you should know my thoughts on Denis Villeneuve, all right? I talk about that dude almost every single stream and how much I appreciate and love his work. So come on, man. Grandmaster Yoda, what's up? He says, so they think The Sun will drop the box office in the UK. Not even point pot? Although point out. Sorry, point out. I was like, wait a minute. Is there an expression here that I'm missing? Point out it was 140,000 on Silverstone to watch F1. What? Okay, that didn't make sense to me. Cornelius Schultz, again, thank you very much for that super chat. I really do appreciate the kind words, good sir. Thank you again. Let's see. All right, there was the updated one, and I still don't understand the 140,000. Still don't understand the 140,000. All righty here. Raj, thank you again for that thumbs up super sticker. I appreciate it, man. DN says it's not even worth pirating. Welcome to the chat, DN. Thanks for being here today. Thunderduck, what's going on? He says, do you still do the numbers for Geeks and Gamers? I always enjoyed those. Yes, unofficially, yes. So basically, because of the box office essentially being dead for a long time, the box office breakdown just really wasn't relevant for the Sundays. And I am planning on bringing those back since now there's some numbers to talk about. So yeah, absolutely. I'm doing videos for the Park Hoppin' channel. So you'll see my face over on Park Hoppin' every now and then. But yes, I still plan on doing box office breakdowns for Geeks and Gamers. But obviously I do it for my channel too, because I've been doing it for pretty much as I could do it during pandemic times and trying to keep it up as well. And so I don't want to just do it over on Geeks and Gamers, but I'd be more than willing, of course, to do another breakdown specifically of what's going on here with Space Jam 2 and with Space Jam 2 and also with Black Widow. Though Jeremy, I think, is also doing a pretty good job covering that too. But yes, definitely. Thank you very much again for being here. Appreciate it. All right. Sernapubis Cuber, who's a member. What's going on? He says, hello, humans and other quitters. Hello to you. Thank you for being here today. Appreciate it. Thanks for being a member. All right, JKDBuck76, who's a member, tagged also. He says, they canceled Pepe Le Pew. $6 says Kathleen Kennedy hires Pepe's personal assistant because she has no soul. Oh, dang. We got some shots fired. Shots fired, good sir. Got some shots fired there, good sir. Chris Wandry, thank you for being here. Brightburn985, thanks for tagging. He says, I heard somebody say Space Jam New Legacy makes more sense than Space Jam 1. Who said it makes more sense? Also, in what world was the first Space Jam supposed to make sense? I'm pretty sure that movie, as a concept, being a cartoon and being a kid's movie, very clearly a kid's movie, was not supposed to make sense. It's one of those very clear exceptions to the rule of having to have a coherent story. There are some movies that are made where they're not supposed to make sense. They're supposed to just be fun, and they are supposed to basically be mindless entertainment for kids. So, I don't know. That's interesting, though, that someone would make that argument. Cornelius says, don't do it. Watched 45 minutes of Loki season finale and hated it. I forgot about it I forget about giving 2 hours. Yeah, seriously, man. Loki, man. That show really also, what's sad about Loki is that it could have been a good show. Tom Hiddleston's a fantastic actor. Everyone really in the show, acting-wise, was fine. It was the showrunner and the writer that really just made the show not anything special and really a waste of time. And when you have the showrunner coming out to say, I wanted more than anything, her words, I wanted more than anything to make Loki bisexual. I was like, if that's a priority in your writing scheme, the sexuality of the person, of the character in your story, that tells me all I need to know about your writing ability, about your logic, or rather lack of writing ability and lack of logic. And that plays out also in the show. Not to mention the show, especially when it comes to time travel, introducing this character really destroys it. Obviously, I doubt anyone cares about spoilers at this point, but when they reveal the person at the end of time, instead of it being some like god figure in the Marvel universe, instead of it being some titan or something like that, it's a human. It's a person. It's a person who developed technology. So that even of itself, and obviously I don't have full knowledge of the comic material there, but that just sounds stupid to me. That you're saying a human being can develop technology that can be stronger than a god, in the case of Loki. That is stronger than the Infinity Stones, which remember how much those were built up in the MCU? It's stupid. So, and obviously, too, they completely race swapped the character. I think it's supposed to be the character of Kang or Kang or however it is that you pronounce it. Again, I'm not a comics expert there, but yeah, it's insane to me. It truly is insane to me how they messed it up. How bad they messed it up. The Craig Lee Experience tagged and says, what do you think about LeBron's son's acting? Again, I haven't seen it yet. I don't want to see it, but I have a feeling that some people are going to try and make me see it. Thunderdog says, how many MCU films were made by committee and when did it start? I mean, it's a great question. I think that in the end, most of the films were made by committee. I think it depends on what committee was making the movie. Because in Iron Man 1, you had Jon Favreau running that show. So you know that Jon Favreau didn't do that alone. He was probably working with Marvel writers, working with Marvel executives, and so it felt very much like a Marvel product. And I think that's the reason why you had such love from comic fans in those early movies. Disney took over in 2012. I I believe. No, wait, I might be confusing that with Star Wars taking over in 2012. But I believe Disney officially took over Marvel not too far into what was going on. Let me go ahead and look that up real quick. Disney Marvel acquisition. Disney Marvel acquisition. Let's see what we got. What does the report say here? You're not going to give me a date. You're just going to give me a bunch of random stuff. Okay, it says here in June 2009, they got a call to schedule a meeting with Ike at Marvel's offices. So, they actually probably got it pretty, On August 31st, 2009, just a few months after Iger's first meeting with Perlmutter, Disney announced they were buying Marvel for $4 billion. So, they were involved very early on. However, there was a transition. It was a very clear transition because, one, those types of deals take a long time in order to get approved and to go through, and then also to actually have the movement needed to actually have firmly Disney's grasp on the products in place, not to mention filming already having taken place on various movies as well. So if we take that into account, then let's look over here. I think I put numbers. So if they took over, or rather they put in their first offer in 2009, in August 2009, they probably didn't take full reign or full control until a few movies in. So let's see. They had Iron Man, Incredible Hulk in 2008, and those were completely independent of Marvel. The next film was in 2010. So you probably, I believe, had then some Disney involvement by 2010 in Iron Man 2. Iron Man 2, I think many would argue, is not anywhere as good as Iron Man 1. You then had the first Thor film, which I am biased towards. I think it's a good movie. I enjoy it, but again, I do have a bias there. Then you had Captain America, the First Avenger. A lot of people loved that first movie. I actually didn't. The CGI in that movie actually really bothered me a lot. I was actually not a fan of that first film, but I'm not going to deny the fact that a lot of people did like it. Then, of course, you had that first Avengers film in 2012, which many people would say was just a phenomenon. Like, it was not only just a box office phenomenon, but it was also just the culmination of several movies leading to a team-up movie. It had really never been done this way before. And by that point, Disney had a lot firm involvement. Basically, you go by Kevin Feige. Kevin Feige is listed as a producer pretty early on in those movies. As I said, 2009 is when the acquisition started, and then the transfer of power and the transfer of creativity started. And it seems like Kevin Feige kind of kept his hands off and then got more involved as time went on. And then there's some good things that happened even during that Disney era. As I said, technically the first Avengers film occurs during this time period. You also have movies like Captain America Winter Soldier, I think is one of the best films. Guardians of the Galaxy, that's a 2014 release. Then you had a film like Age of Ultron, which I think was not good. First Ant-Man I thought was pretty solid. You had Captain America Civil War, which was okay. It was solid for the most part, fun, but not as good as Winter Soldier was. Doctor Strange I thought was fun. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, not so good, 2017. You then have the Sony team up in Spider-Man Homecoming in 2017. So it's hard really to say anything about that because Sony was very much involved with that too. Sony also does not have a good history with films. Thor Ragnarok, which, as I've always mentioned, I personally found fun, but I understand the objective flaws story-wise with the source material there. Black Panther in 2018. Avengers Infinity War in 2018, which to me was the last truly great Marvel film. So that's very deep into Disney's involvement. But then you have films like Ant-Man and the Wasp, which was just a very big letdown. Captain Marvel, which of course was bad. Avengers Endgame, which for me was just awful. And then Spider-Man Far From Home, which I kind of had fun with, but the villain, the fact that they screwed up for me what could have been a great role for Jake Gyllenhaal, because I'm a huge fan of Jake Gyllenhaal's work, made me very upset. So anyway, hopefully that makes some sense there. But yeah, 2009 is when the actual Disney acquisition specifically took place. And I'm sure that y'all are going to correct me and give me better details. And I appreciate that. I always do appreciate that. All right, we'll go through a couple more comments, and then I'm going to bring on Andrew Hoyle, who was one of my chosen of Valhalla from the UK, to see what he has to say about some of this stuff. By the way, ORJ, thank you very much for the super chat, man. He says, I get it's a kid's film, but $150 million budget is stupid. Yes, a fact, ORJ. Yes. A kid's movie should not cost $150 million unless it is the most amazing kids movie of all time. Like, theoretically, when you look to films, or rather, when you look to novels like The Hobbit, for instance, The Hobbit was very well known to be a kid's story, right? It was written for a younger audience. Lord of the Rings written for an older audience. So if they actually did The Hobbit well, which they didn't do, very big letdown with the live-action Hobbit movies, that would be a movie where I would understand them putting in money like that. But for a movie like Space Jam 2, a movie that no one asked for, no one wanted, and is going to be a massive financial flop, yeah, even if COVID didn't happen, I don't see a world where that film would have made money. I really don't. Because no one asked for it. Stay at Home Podcast, what is going on? But I just realized I had highlighted the comment but not read this one. Jenkins85 says the first director actually quit Space Jam 2, and they got the guy who directed Girls Trip to do this movie. Oh, yeah. Remember when that was a movie that people were like, it's actually fun. Stay at Home Podcast here. I'm sorry I'm late. Was watching Hell's Kitchen. It's still better than Black Widow. Is that like the show Hell's Kitchen? Mr. Grant Gregory is a member, says, what mic are you using? So it's a Blue. It's not a Blue Yeti stand. It's a company called Blue. So it's a Blue. I forgot the official name for it, but I think it's the only one they sell. But it's a Blue mic stand, and it's the Shure SM7B. However, I would say and argue that the SM58, which was the last microphone I had, sounds almost, I think, to my ear at least, and I'm not an audiophile, sounds almost as good with even a lower cost interface. If you're interested, of course. Jenkins85 says, Katsusi, the original voice of Lola, recorded all the lines, but they redubbed it with Zendaya to have her featured in the billing. Also, the VAs weren't credited. Oh, what? Are you kidding me? So they actually had the original voice of Lola Bunny, and then they decided to redub it just so they could get the name recognition for Zendaya. Yeah, that sounds like modern Hollywood. That sounds like modern Warner Brothers thinking. Yeah, let's not put any trust in the story because we understand the story sucks, and let's just try and put names on the film because that's a sure way of getting people to go to the theater. How is it that these people have not figured out yet that stars don't sell tickets anymore? Or at least not to the same degree that they used to. I thought that would have been very clear by some of these massive flops that we've seen. Remember, Harrison Ford was in a movie with a CGI dog. Harrison Ford used to be a big name that used to be able to bring people. Not anymore. It's not a thing anymore. That movie was a massive financial failure. You look to the MCU films, Scarlett Johansson. Many people would consider her to be a box office draw. Look to some of the films that she's been making recently. It's not a guarantee anymore. And I think that the one biggest thing from the pandemic that Hollywood's going to have to figure out is that, people actually want good stories that allow them to escape. They don't care about the actors' names anymore. They don't care about the woke identity politics that we're showing and shoving into the movie. Liquid Blake, I think they mean in the UK they had 140,000 people watching the F1 race. Okay. Yeah, interesting that they wouldn't have mentioned that. Yeah, Jenkins85, I got that one. So here's the thing. With the way that my chat system works, if you retract the message, it will still show up to me. So please don't retract messages in general because it always bothers me when people do. I understand that some people times there's like a mistake or spelling error, things like that. Hey, normally I can figure it out. Not always. Obviously, earlier I couldn't. But normally I can figure that stuff out. So, because it will remain forever here in my little chat that I use to show it on the screen. Brightburn985, you don't know him, but he streams on Twitch, and his YouTube channel is called Double Toasted. Huh? ORJ, again, thank you so much for that super chat. Appreciate it. Stay at Home Podcast tagged and says, biggest issue with Loki, it was given to the wrong people. All these projects after Infinity War is they're being given a wall and true a lot of stuff towards it, see what sticks. Yeah, no, a lot of these projects, absolutely. It is them. Well, also, I think the pandemic I do think if you're going to allow the pandemic to be blamed for anything, I would say it's their Disney Plus rollout because it's clear that they had some visions in mind, and then I think that they rushed a lot of these projects because they were like, oh, people are at home, people have nothing to do, theaters are closed, the theaters might be dying, let's get this stuff out there. Let's just put it out there, and as you said, see what sticks. And yeah, what they don't realize, though, is that it's going to have a tremendous impact on their bottom line in the future, because if they're going to ruin their characters, if they're going to ruin their stories even more than they already had been prior to the pandemic, this is just going to exponentially hurt it even more, for sure. Luke Zilla, what is going on? Thank you very much for being here. Yeah, 2009. Let's see. Mr. Grant Gregory says, take the worst MCU film from the first 5 years and put it up against anything that has come out recently. Disney MCU is rudderless. Yeah, especially when we deal with the overall stories. That's for sure. Trent Johnson. Disney ruins everything it touches. Yeah, especially recently. That's for sure. Hound 3000, welcome back to the chat. Thanks for being here. Gonzalo, what's going on, good sir? Member on the channel says, I think Avengers was the first movie with complete Disney control. Yeah, I'm wondering if it was. I think someone else had mentioned it in the chat. Yeah, there we go. Liquid Blake had said, Feige has been the president of Marvel Studios since 2007. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, so he was the president of the studios, but Disney didn't actually buy Marvel until 2009. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know a whole lot about the actual history of Kevin Feige, because assuming that he wasn't involved with Disney at all, right? Or was he involved with Disney when he became president of Marvel, and then Marvel just hadn't bought them, or Disney just hadn't bought them yet? I don't know. Thunderduck says, Avengers 2012 looks funny. Cinematography is off compared to Age of Ultron. I don't know. Yeah, I actually like the visual effects of the first Avengers movie. The event, I would say the cinematography is off in Age of Ultron, because the CGI in Age of Ultron is not good. It looks so artificial and so bad. The CGI on Hulk, especially when he was destroying stuff in the city in the first Avengers film, that stuff still holds up, man. That stuff absolutely still holds out. Andrew Hoyle, I'm going to bring you on in just a second. He says, I've just released, I've been paid by Fisney by proxy. If you'll excuse me, I'm off to find an open window in a tall building. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and try and get an open line call over on the Discord to my man Andrew Hoyle. So I'm going to try and give you a call, Andrew, over on Discord. So we'll see if we can get you onto the show. We shall see. Andrew Hoyle, are you there? Oh, hello, good sir. Let me go ahead and unmute your microphone on for everyone else. Andrew Hoyle, how are you doing, good sir?
I'm okay. I'm quietly melting here, but I'm good.
Quietly melting, you say? How hot is it over there?
It's hot. It's let me just check the weather. It's saying it's I think hot, so yeah, it's that temperature. I think it's about 85 degrees. So, but we don't do air conditioning in the UK. We only get about a week's worth of heat during the year, so it's not really used.
Interesting. Well, anyway, welcome to the channel, sir. I feel like it's been forever since I've talked to you.
Yes.
For those that don't know, he is a part of the Chosen of Valhalla, but has not been able to join because of timing issues of being in the freaking hot UK, as he is saying. So how have you been, good sir?
I've been good. I've been working, melting. I've finally sorted my server out. I've been watching some stuff, some recommendations from Tina. Mainly Venture Boys. Venture Boys, sorry. I've been watching a lot of that.
Okay, very cool. And let me now fix this. I just pulled a Gary here with this capture window. Let me see if I can get the right one. For some reason, it's not showing up, and I don't know why. That's so weird. Oh, that's right. It has to be open. Freaking OBS, man. You have to have it open, and then it'll actually work, and then now it should show up for me. Let's see. Where is it? Where is it? There we go. There we go. All right. Yunk. And then let me just take care of this. There we go. Beautiful. All right. But anyway, thank you for joining me this morning, good sir. I really do appreciate it. So, how hot is it in the UK? Like, what is the actual temperature?
I think it's 85 degrees. 29, so that's about 85 for
Okay.
you guys. But like I said, we don't do aircon at all. So I'm sat here with a wind turbine type of fan on, but all it's doing is blowing hot air at me. So it's a bit horrible at the moment.
Well, at least you got some air circulation going on. I mean,
Yeah, that's a guess. But my computer generates a lot of heat, so that doesn't help either.
oh yeah. Well, what are your thoughts overall about this? Have you actually seen Black Widow?
I've neither seen Black Widow nor Space Sham 2, as someone called it before, which I thought was very funny.
Yeah.
I've seen the first Space Jam, but I cannot remember anything about it. It was a very long time ago. I've no interest in Black Widow, just as much interest as I had in what was the other thing? The Falcon, Black Falcon, and the Woke Soldier, whatever it was called.
Pretty much anything coming from Disney Plus. Yeah, you had Falcon and Winter Soldier, which is now. Yeah, go ahead.
I tapped out with WandaVision. I was stupid enough to watch all of that before I realised how awful it was, and vowed never to watch anything again.
Oh yeah. Now, what part of WandaVision got you? Was it just the terrible writing, the direction that seemed directionless, or was it the end reveal of no one will ever understand how much you sacrificed after taking over the minds of children? And
it seemed okay at the beginning when it was the whole, going through the ages of the sitcoms and things. But it started to when I can't remember the name. Is it Kat Denning? Her character.
Yes.
When she showed up, she was the comic relief from the Thor films, but then all of a sudden she was the expert in her field to be taken to this secret location, and all of a sudden she was the one that, was the spark that, oh, this is happening. Yeah, okay. No thanks. But yeah, it slowly descended from there.
Oh yeah.
And then the end reveal was just awful.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And also too, I mean, the whole, because I'm no expert, right, on the comics or anything like that. Do you have a lot of history with the comics?
Well, the comics I grew up with were 2000 AD and Judge Dredd, but I did read a lot of Marvel a little later, like in my teens.
Okay.
But I stopped reading really when the new Avengers comics were out. And I think it's kind of roughly when they decided to go to Lady Loki. I was like, oh, what's this? What is this nonsense? And then just gave up after that.
Okay, so you have a lot more knowledge of the comics than I do.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, what did you think of their take on, was it Agatha Harkness?
Oh no. I mean, I like the actress. I've seen her in quite a few things, and I find her quite funny.
Yeah.
But I mean, her character before, up until then, I thought she was quite a good character. But as the whole Salem witches rubbish, it was just it was awful.
Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. And what got me too was, just like you, I actually do like the actress too, and she was the best part of the series for a while. Like she did that 1950s, especially, like all the eras. She, I think, captured the next door neighbor vibe of all those series very well.
Yeah.
That's sad though. Again, it's just what you looking at everyone talking in the chat, and all the stuff that's going on now with the box office, and it's just so sad to see something that I remember going to the theater at midnight to go see these movies. I remember going with friends, spending hours in the parking lot talking about the films, breaking them down. They were all comic fans, and so they were explaining, oh, that's what this means X, or this character is coming in the next movie. And I remember it got me excited. And now it's just like, it's a laughing stock. It's awful.
Mm. Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think I've ever done a midnight show, other than when I worked at the cinema, when we would do the whole technical showings for the projectionists.
Yeah.
So it was always exciting for that, but yeah, I've not been excited for a film for a while. That said, I did see the trailer for the prequel to The Sopranos the other day, and that did actually get me a little bit excited. I thought that looked quite good
Yeah,
because I
I
am a huge fan of The Sopranos.
okay. Yeah, I've actually I never watched The Sopranos. It was never something that like as far as a story like was something that really appealed to me. But even I saw that trailer and I was like, this is a good trailer because
Yeah,
even
and
if
I
you
liked
know
how they're
nothing
using his
about
son as well.
yeah, even if you know nothing about a story, you can know when there's a good trailer. And that just yeah, the fact as you mentioned, yeah, the fact that they actually have James Gandolfini's son in the film playing that role and he actually seems like he's competent as an
Yeah,
actor is exciting.
yes. So hopefully that'll be good.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's see. Bifford Hobbit, though, seems to be recommending a film. He says, I saw the new Anthony Bourdain documentary. They use artificial intelligence to dub Bourdain's voice creepy. Ooh, okay, so maybe not maybe not a recommendation. That I don't know about that. What are your thoughts? Are you still here? Papa, can you hear me? Oh no. Hello. Hello?
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 Hello? I don't know what happened there.
I don't know what happened either. What are your thoughts about this Anthony Bourdain voice getting dubbed and they used AI to create his voice?
What? I have no idea who that man is, but using AI, what?
Yeah. It's a new documentary. I remember seeing the documentary being listed and apparently they used AI to dub the voice, like to create new dialogue with the voice. That's
Or does it sound like Stephen Hawking, or is it just,
based on the based on how Biffer's wording it, it sounds to me
I think that might give it away if it sounds like Stephen Hawking, then that it might be something
yeah.
untoward.
It seems to me more like it actually is probably it sounds just like him and that's creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like what they're doing with that because who was it that they brought back in Rogue One? Was that Peter Cushing?
Oh, yes, yes, that was awful.
And it was, I remember seeing that, and not only was the CGI just really creepy in general, but then the fact that they were totally fine bringing an actor back from the dead, I thought it set a very weird precedent. And now that they're dubbing voices of people too, is this the future? Now it's the point where things are so bad in Hollywood, they don't have any new ideas. They're going to bring dead actors back to be in new movies.
Well, we might get some decent acting if that's the case then.
I guess if a computer's the one in charge, maybe they'll
Yeah.
do better off than one
Bring
of these
back
directors.
Brando and
Could you imagine that though? Like I'm thinking about this, and you think about how Disney, especially, they're spending nothing on these nobody directors. Might as well just put it in the hands of an AI.
yep,
Why not?
definitely.
Why not?
Can't do any worse job than what's happening at the minute.
That's a very, very good point. Liquid Blake says Yilin Hala. Oh, that's right, because of the correct way of pronouncing Gyllenhaal, but I will call him Gyllenhaal. Liquid Blake. He says, that's how you say Jake's name. We've been through this. Yes, we have, Liquid Blake. Yillenhala. Do you call him Yillenhala or do you call him Gyllenhaal?
I call him Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
That's how you said it.
Yeah. No, apparently, I remember Liquid Blake had mentioned this before. He was on a talk show and he broke down the actual pronunciation of his name, and apparently it's Yillenhala.
Oh.
Which is bizarre to me. Because I wonder where the extra A comes from at the end. Let's see. The Craig Lee Experience. Would you have taken Black Widow over Ant-Man back in 2015, or at least over Ant-Man 2? I absolutely would have taken a Black Widow film at that time over Ant-Man 2. That's an easy choice because Ant-Man 2 was not good. I actually liked the first Ant-Man film, so I don't know if I would necessarily replace it. I would say that the movie should have just been a part of the release schedule. Like they should have just had it at that time. What do you think?
I'm the same. I really did like the first Ant-Man film. I liked that Edgar Wright was involved because I'm a huge fan of Edgar Wright, and I was disappointed when he left.
Yeah.
But Joe Cornish, who wrote the screenplay with him, there was a show in the UK called The Adam and Joe Show. It was a comedy sketch thing that he did, and it was extremely funny. So I love the first Ant-Man film, and I'm a huge heist fan anyway, so that was always a bonus. But the second film was just It was like, let's take everything good from the first one, and then dump it out, and then set it on fire, and there we go. And then plaster the wasp's face in the front and center of the movie poster.
Oh yeah, and for me, the biggest issue that I had with Ant-Man 2 was the villain who was not a villain, like the villain who turned out to be good at the end. Because I remember too when that film came out, I did my review, and there were people in the comments saying she's actually a good actress because she was in some TV show, like it was Black Mirror, I think maybe.
Yeah, she was in a couple of episodes of Black Mirror.
Yeah, and people said, oh, she was great in that. And I was thinking to myself, okay, that might be true. I have not seen that show. I have not seen her performance in that, so I can't speak to that. But what I can do is say she was overacting so much in Ant-Man 2, and it was not good.
Plus, that was another gender-swapped character, if I remember rightly, from the comics.
Yes.
The character that she plays was a guy.
Yeah.
And then that's how you said there was the whole sympathetic thing at the end. You know, you got to feel sorry for her.
Yeah.
It's like the way they're going with the characters that they're putting in the shows and the movies now.
Yeah. And it's just like kind of going back to what we said with WandaVision. It's like, Wanda's just misunderstood. Okay? You don't know what she went through. All right? When the love of her life got killed. No one understands what that means. And then it's like, you know, you got Captain... Well, I say this. You had Captain America over there being like, I understand what that means. But then, of course, they destroyed that by having him go back in time, which is something that he never would have done. Because, man, that just reminds me of the whole time travel stuff with Endgame. And that's a tangent I've made too many times.
No. I hate time travel stuff. Time Bandits and Bill and Ted, that's where I draw the line after that.
Well, those are also done well, I think. And they at least follow their rules. Like, to me, if your time travel is ridiculous, but you follow your rules, I can usually typically kind of let that go. Like with Back to the Future, for instance. Like, I think of that, and it sets and establishes rules, and it plays along the lines. And yeah, if you break it down, I'm sure it's very easy to be like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. This wouldn't have happened. But they don't really stretch outside of the rules that they establish a whole lot as compared to what they did in Endgame, which was every 5 seconds, it seemed.
Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah. Lou S. in the chat. What's going on, Lou? Thank you for being here today. Appreciate it. Thanatos Felicitas. He tags and says, The Hobbit should have used the same tone as The Wizard of Oz or The Princess Bride. A tall tale that you know is the storyteller is making stuff up. Well, I think that it should have just been an adaptation of The Hobbit. That was the issue with the movie. It wasn't an adaptation of The Hobbit. It was, let's just take a few points from The Hobbit and then add a bunch of stuff that is not in The Hobbit at all, is arguably not even in the vision of Tolkien. It's just, well, actually, if you look to the index, there's all these other stuff, and that's how they justified adding it in. But it was all because they wanted to make it into 3 movies.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you like The Hobbit at all?
Not really. I probably did at the time because I loved The Lord of the Rings, and I think I fell into the trap with the prequel Star Wars movies. When I first went to watch those at the cinema, I was in awe and I think it was just because it's Star Wars. I've not seen Star Wars in decades, and this was amazing. And then I watched it a few more times, and then I realized it's Jar Jar Binks. It's awful. This is awful. And I kind of had the same thing with Hobbit. I watched that and I really enjoyed it. Apart from the way they filmed it, we went to watch it. I can't remember what it's called.
The high frame rate.
Yes, that was it. And it just looked like a really tacky soap opera. Yeah, the way it had been made. But I managed to get past that and I enjoyed it. And then after a few more views, and it's like, this is awful. Yeah, I don't remember this. And what is this? And why is the barrels and why are they going there?
And then the CGI, and there's so much more CGI than in the Lord of the Rings films, which still hold up because there isn't a whole lot of CGI.
Yeah, that said, I will probably enjoy The Hobbit a lot more than I'll probably enjoy the Amazon TV show that's going to come out.
Oh, especially if...
very strong feeling for that.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if the things that we're hearing and the things that we're seeing from the so-called Tolkien Society, it's not looking good for that series, to say the least.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be bothering, to be honest.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame you.
I'll leave that to you and Gary and Daz to give me the clip notes.
Great. Yeah, it just reminded me that I'm going to have to watch that series, and then I still have to watch Space Jam 2 probably too, but I don't want to. I don't want to. Anyway, Tina B says Hell's Kitchen with Gordon Ramsay, I think. Yeah, that's what I assume they were talking about. Because I was like, I don't know of a film called Hell's Kitchen, but maybe there is. Maybe there is. Thunderduck tagged to say, Feige started reporting to Walt Disney Studios in August of 2015, not like Perlmutter anymore. Then when Feige became popular, Sony is the only hope left for superhero movies. Okay, gotcha. So Feige was mostly independent then until 2015. And I guess that's the thing, though, is that there are some good movies prior to 2015, but there's also bad movies as well. And but that is interesting. It's not until 2015, though, since that they purchased it in 2009. So that is interesting to see how all those years worked out the way that they did. But yeah, Sony being the only hope left for a superhero movie, I don't think is a high bar, sadly, because Sony's done some good stuff, but then they've also done some, Amazing Spider-Man series for one. What did you think about Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2?
Is that the one with
Andrew Garfield?
Yeah. The first one was okay. I didn't like Electro. I thought he was an awful character. I like Jamie Foxx, but I didn't like his Electro at all.
Mm-hmm.
I did prefer Tobey Maguire's. The first two anyway. The third one was just an abomination.
Mm-hmm.
But I would probably say I enjoyed that more than the Andrew Garfield films, and I don't particularly like the Holland one.
Yeah,
like Tina keeps calling him Iron Boy, and it is. It's not. He's not Spider-Man.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like Spider-Man at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's sad because I do think Holland has the chops to be able to pull off that character really well, and I think that. Would you say that he does a better job doing a Peter Parker than he does a Spider-Man?
Yeah, I think he's a better Peter Parker than he is a Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And I would rather see him without the Iron Man suit. I think that the parts in the movies where he's not got the Iron Man suit on were probably the best parts in the films for me.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's not relying on Tony Stark's gadgets.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm kind of similar in the way that I rank the Spider-Man films, because I think the first two with Tobey Maguire are pretty good, though I hate the ending of 2 with the scene of her running in the wedding dress. Like, that just, for me, is... I don't care if it's in the comics or not. It's just like, because I don't know if it is or not, but it's such a cringe shot. 3 is laughably bad, but hey, at least it's entertainingly bad. I like the first Amazing Spider-Man film. The CGI, unfortunately, of the villain is not good in it. Amazing Spider-Man 2 is just trash. They tried to put way too many villains into the film, and then the CGI was just not good, and writing's not good. And it's sad because Andrew Garfield kind of gets thrown under the bus, I think, too much with it. There's some people like saying, he's a terrible Spider-Man. It's like, I don't think he was just given a good direction. Because I think that as an actor, he was actually one of the better actors to get that role, because he's a very talented actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I think he did a decent enough job. I think it was just bad directing, I think.
Yeah. Let's see. Mr. Grant Gregory says, how would you have fixed the MCU TV series as in the stuff post Endgame? So the stuff that we've been talking about with WandaVision, etc. Well, what I would have done is I would have probably waited. I would have not tried to rush anything out because of pandemic. I know that marketing-wise and financially, that makes a lot of sense, because you're going to try and capitalize on people being home and try to boost up those subscriptions and everything. But I would have taken more time with it. I would have made sure I got good writers, because that's the issue that's going on with modern day Disney. And this is included in what we found in Endgame and what we found in some of those last movies too, is that they're going for cheap directors, cheap writers, and they don't care about the story. What they care about is fulfilling quotas. So WandaVision's a great example. They made it very clear they wanted to have a female director, female writer, female showrunner, because it's a female centric show. That was their main focus. And I think that is something that even carried over into Loki too, because you also had a female showrunner for that. And I noticed this at the end of every episode. I'd look and see who was credited for what. and there were a lot of female names mentioned because obviously she has some control then in the decision-making process, and it seemed to me she was making these choices based on trying to fill quotas or trying to give opportunities to people rather than choosing the best people for the job. And I think that is the biggest issue going on right now. It's the same issue that's going to happen with Star Wars too, and has been happening with Star Wars as well. I mean, you have Leslie Headland, as I like to say. You know, she made it clear that for her, even though she's saying and admitting, I want people who are going to challenge me, she then also at the same sentence says, but I don't have people that have different worldviews than I do. So it's like, okay, you're going to have people that have the same opinions that you do and worldviews that you do, but you're still going to have challenges and accept challenges. It doesn't make any sense. So I think that is the biggest issue with the shows, and how I would have fixed it is I would have actually gotten good writers. I would have gotten the best writers available, the best directors available. If I actually cared about those series and wanted them to be relevant, especially to the cinematic universe, that is how you take care of it. What are your thoughts?
How would I fix the TV shows?
Yeah.
I would have probably taken everything before release, put it in a cupboard and set it on fire, and then got someone who's familiar with the source material, a good storyteller, and a good showrunner, put them together and make something good that people can enjoy.
Yeah. And that's all people want. People just want to be able to escape and enjoy. And as I said, like, these shows do have elements of that in there, but then it's just very clear that it gets clouded because of the people that they had chosen, the people that they had gotten onto their projects. Because as I said, they cared more about filling quotas. They cared more about doing the various stuff they've been doing with identity politics than they did with anything else.
I think that's why, sorry to cut you off then, but I think that's why I enjoyed Nobody as much as I did, because it was the first film in a very long time I've watched it, and I just enjoyed every second without going, oh God, why is that? Why have they said that? Why are they doing this? It's just from start to finish, I enjoyed everything about it, and I thought it was great. Yeah. And I've heard the same thing, people saying the same thing. So, you know, take the identity politics out of the storytelling. If you want to do that, then fine. Get yourself a little corner in a coffee shop and natter between yourselves. Just make something decent so we can all watch and enjoy. Yeah.
But we all know that that's not what's going to happen, because they want to take the things that you enjoy and they want to be able to mold it into their own image. And then when people start to run away from it, they're going to say, wait, what happened? Why are y'all such ists and phobes? What's going on? It's just it's a self-defeating ideology, to say the very least. But someone did have a John Connor was like, Brits and their cupboards. Let's see. So Thunderduck has this to say. He says here, cinematography, I meant the lighting, shadows, and stuff. And now I've kind of forgotten what the original question was. As far as what lighting and shadows and stuff, I'm very lost now. That's why I always need full context. Gonzalo says, Kevin Feige was a producer of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. There is a BTS featurette with him talking how excited he was to bring Venom to the big screen. I think I remember hearing about that as a part of a featurette with him mentioning Venom. But yeah, it's sad because it looks like he had a pretty decent head on his shoulders, and then he kind of just got corrupted by the Disney machine. It's sad. Yep. Dark Shadow Logan says, my understanding is Feige was part of Marvel and was acquired to Disney when they bought. So basically, they bought him. It's almost like they bought his soul, to say the very least.
It sounds about right.
Yeah. Snorter Pooper says, it's 84 here at 10 a.m. and heading north on the thermometer, says Snorter Poopus. I don't know what part of the world Snorter Poopus is in. But yeah, when you said 84 degrees, I was like, that's not that hot. 84 is nothing. But then you also mentioned that you don't have AC, and it's like, okay, then I would absolutely say it's not good. Do you at least have like a nice breeze or something?
Not really.
Not really.
No. We get the breeze the other weeks of the year. It's just like one or 2 weeks pushing it, where we get nice hot weather, nice blue skies. Everyone rushes to the seaside, and then the heavens open, the grey clouds come over. Yeah. And that's it until next year. Everyone packs the espadrilles and the rubber rings away for the year.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine being, because I'm originally from New Orleans, which is a swamp. I couldn't imagine being there with the heat index in the hundreds with no AC. There's just no way that would be survivable.
Yeah, that's what we would love when we would come. Because I think the last holiday we went to in America was we went to Orlando, and the AC after being out all day was just I couldn't move. I was just parked on the on the thing.
Yeah.
So nice.
I just remember the other day on Friday Night Tights, like he had like the cloth on his head trying to cool down, and I was like, I just, do they even have AC units like wall units in the UK?
Yeah, I mean you can buy them, but I mean they're pretty expensive, and like I said, we don't really get that much nice weather for it to justify spending hundreds, thousands of pounds on a AC unit. That's probably only going to get used once or twice a year.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
I mean,
it costs thousands.
Where I
am
anyway.
I'm in Tennessee. I'm in Tennessee.
Yeah, well, I'm in the north of England, so we are quite. The weather's not very nice up here. The south coast, like Cornwall, Devon way, that gets quite pleasant for longer of the year, I suppose. But where I'm in the north of England, and then as you go further north and then up into Scotland,
yeah,
the weather is not very good.
Okay, because isn't it just mostly just very rainy and cloudy a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah. My little brother. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say there was a reason why in the Game of Thrones, when you had the North, that is exactly how the North looks: muddy and wet and rainy and grey.
So they actually got it.
We
they
do
actually
have
got it pretty accurate. Look at that. Nice.
Yes.
Yeah, back when Game of Thrones was good.
Yeah.
But no, it was making me think because my little brother did a semester abroad in Ireland, which obviously is different, but I would say probably similar weather patterns for the most part.
Yeah, I've not been to Ireland for a while, but it is similar because it's not too far away.
Yeah.
It's like directly west from where I am.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not too bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Trent Johnson says reason number, I need a comma there to understand it, but like 940,000, why it is great that we have our independence from the UK. The USA is smart enough to use air conditioning.
Well, if you had AC back then you deserve to have your independence.
I would absolutely say to that, as to the point made by Andrew Hoyle, they don't need it. So their weather is so great that they hardly ever need the AC. So take that for what it's worth, I would say. Because I could say here, I need AC all the time. Especially in our summers. All right, let us see. Captain Panther Grenz Ent, welcome to the chat. Thank you for being here. Luke Zilla tagged to say, Black Widow didn't even trend in the top 10 on Disney Plus, I think. Really? Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, I would say it's hard to really always use those metrics or to take any of those metrics seriously because Disney Plus obviously, or rather Disney can control that. I mean, they can put whatever they want in their top 10 and claim that they're trending. But I will say this much, Black Widow, every time you go to Disney Plus, Black Widow is the first thing you see. Like, watch on Premiere Access, watch it now. And the first time that this happened to me on HBO Max, going to a different service here, I went to HBO Max and I got a pop-up for Space Jam. And I had to like actually exit out of it. So it was almost made to where it was made if you, because I know for me sometimes when I'm going into services, I sometimes like will like blindly just tap because I know where things are, and so I'll just kind of like try and tap to get ahead. So it's almost like they created that to make it where you'll have like a false click on it. So part of me is wondering if HBO Max releases anything about number of clicks or number of people quote unquote watching the film. Having that happen to me, I would not be surprised if that number is grossly inflated because of that pop-up.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right, let us see. Who else? Mr. Grant Greger, this is when the audio went out for a second. He says, the ghost of Bourdain disconnected him from the Discord. Let's see. Star Poopa says, why would they have to dub the voice for new dialogue? Isn't a documentary supposed to be factual? I'm confuzzled. Yeah, it's a great question. You would think that because you're going to theoretically be using footage of him and any voiceover work, all you would need to do is have someone that knew him or have an expert or someone like that, because that's how documentaries have been made since the beginning of time. The fact that they thought, hey, we're going to do something, quote, clever here, and what we're going to do is instead, we're going to violate potentially ethics of humans and just create new dialogue from an AI. I don't know what they were thinking. That I'm confuzzled by that as well, Snortopoopas. Let's see. Tox Fox, welcome to the chat. Thanks for being here today. Let's see. Snortopoopus then says, what worries me is they will create fake sound bites for fake news. Well, obviously, yeah, that is the biggest concern with deepfake technology in general, is that some people have it where it's so good, it's impossible or very hard to tell that it's not real. All you need is to get, a president, a prime minister, someone in power.
Whoa. Are you telling me that what I've been watching on YouTube, The Fresh Prince of DC, that's not real?
I hate to say that as real as it looks and sounds, it's not actually Joe Biden. Or Ben Shapiro, yeah.
My will's been shattered.
I know, right? I think the most shattering thing about all of it is that Ben Shapiro is not a servant at the White House.
What?
Who would have thought? Scandal. I've been scandalized by this revelation. Could you imagine if that relationship existed? Ben Shapiro and Joe Biden hanging out. Oh, man. That's what should be real. I wish that was real, because that'd at least be funny. Better than the nonsense we have these days. Eric K says, good crowd in here tonight. Yeah, we are still at 76 people, so smash that like button, please, if you don't mind. It really does mean a lot. Mike Jackson tagged to say, speaking of creepy AI voice creation, have you seen the Congress movie with Robin Wright? She sells her likeness, image, voice, and name. I have not. So what you're saying is there's a movie where she plays a character where that happens, not Robin Wright, the actress, actually did that. Do you know what movie he's talking about?
I have no idea.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, that sounds troubling. Would be a word for it, I think. Troubling would be the very least. Let's see. Mr. Grant Gregory says, he's calling me out. Back to the Future massively breaks the rules. How did Biff go back to current 2015 after he gave himself the almanac in 1955? Well, I guess the way you would talk about that is, oh yeah, it's a good point. It's a fair point. But I'm trying to think about how I would understand it. I think it is that in the timeline of things, he goes back in his timeline to his timeline. And the way that Doc Brown explains it is that when he's given the almanac, a tangent timeline is created. And so for him to go back to 2015 would still be possible because it would still be within that same timeline. Whereas when they're going back, the timeline, yeah, I can see that. I give you that. But I'm sure someone in the chat might have a better explanation. It's not good to ask me these questions in the morning, especially. Do you have a response to that?
I would say yes.
You would say yes to what? To what I said?
Yep.
It's also too early in the morning for you?
Well, yeah, it's kind of early morning, 3:30ish in the afternoon, so.
3 in the afternoon, and you're saying it's early. Come on. 8-Bit Snake Boy, welcome back to the chat. Glad to have you here. Mr. Grant Gregory just said, oh no, I broke Odin. Hey, it happens. I don't always have an answer for everything. I am a human being. I'm a human being. Piper95 says, it ticks me off when Endgame says Back to the Future is BS, but the Russo brothers and the writers have said they meant Back to the Future 2. I think they're lying to save themselves. Here's the other issue. The Russo brothers and the writers both have a different opinion on how time travel works in their movie. I think that's a bigger issue. When the directors and the writer have a different opinion of how time works in their own movie. Oh, man. Let's see. Trent Johnson tagged to say, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is why I got into superhero movies. I think it's why a lot of people got in. I mean, you go back to the original Spider-Man, you go back to original X-Men. I mean, these are Blade. You go back to the original Blade, which really, I mean, talk about movies that don't get talked about enough, you know, and how much that original Blade film really did for comic book films in general. And obviously you can go back even further than that with other stuff too. But yeah, I think that is absolutely a very good point about the effect that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. I would say there's an argument to be made that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, especially because of how financially successful that entire trilogy was, even the last one, despite the film not being as good as the other two, that it absolutely brought so many new people into not just comic book movies, but probably into the comic world as well. Anakin Skywalker, thanks for subscribing to the channel. Oh man, Anakin Skywalker. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Trent Johnson, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 2 is still my favorite superhero movie, but I think nostalgia is clouding my judgment on that movie. No, Trent Johnson, it's a very good movie. There's no doubt that that's a very strong film and probably the best of the Spider-Man movies. The issue for me is just the ending. That is the only thing I have a big issue with, and it's because of that sequence of her running in the wedding dress with the cheesy light and everything like that. So no, I don't think it's being too clouded there. Thunderduck says Feige reported to Perlmutter. Then he got a free hand. Then he got famous. Nobody knew him before. Mark Webb had a great vision for Spider-Man, and Arid meddled with it. Okay, I gotcha. So basically, Perlmutter is what got Feige started. Then he was by himself, and he was doing still pretty well. And then he got an ego, and that's, of course, around the same time that Disney got involved more directly with him. And okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Beverly Hobbit says, you'll never guess what movie won Cannes 2021. Best movie, Palme d'Or. The car that... Oh no! The car that made a baby with a human girl movie. The one, oh yeah. So I don't know if you were listening yesterday, but someone had mentioned this in the chat that there was a movie at the Cannes Film Festival that was a human having relations with a car.
That's the theme.
Yeah.
What?
Apparently, it also won.
Does this make fun of the Brit guy? No.
No, this is. I mean, I haven't looked into this myself, but someone had mentioned it yesterday, and I think it may have even been Biffer. But he said apparently it won one of their big awards. Oh, if that doesn't
burn it all down.
Yeah, seriously, if that doesn't make you want the aliens to come and the asteroid to hit, I don't know. I don't know what else will.
Yes, can we have the Rapture, please? I'm ready.
Rapture, table 2. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Oh, man. Oh, crazy. Let's see. B-Spin is in the chat, and he's been saying some fun stuff. He says, Odin needs context. Where's Gary to do a boomer voice for Odin? Oh, no. That is not the worst and most boomer thing that I've done the last couple of days. Yesterday was full of boomer moments for me with the technology. Let's see. Games Repository, welcome back to the chat, good sir. Thank you for being here today. Let us see. Who else is here? Bryant Barth asked the question, do you think it's possible to make NC-17 films? They exist. It's not a question of possibility. They exist. I don't know. Do you know what that question might be trying to ask?
What's an NC-17 film?
Ah, yes, that's right. We have different rating systems. So NC-17 typically
right, okay.
in the US, typically it's pornography. but normally it's going to be a film that is very hyper violent with a lot of grotesque nudity and violence is
All right.
usually how it goes.
Yeah, that's 18 over here.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. I mean, people are going to say, well, technically it's not, technically it's not pornography. It's like normally if a film's NC-17, it's going to be essentially soft, like pornography, which is still pornography. But yeah, those movies exist. I think it's bad that they exist. I don't like those types of movies, not just from the moral implications, but also because if that's what you need in your movie to get people to come see your movie, you probably don't have a good story. Is usually the way it goes, typically.
I see.
Let's see. Sonora Poopa says, we all know air conditioning was invented by Benjamin Franklin in 1749, but the British taxed it, and that's why we had the revolution. It's you Brits' fault. That's why we didn't have air conditioning for so long. Let's see. Who else? Bryant Barth says, time didn't catch up to old Biff. I broke Odin. There's Mr. Grant Gregory's comment there. Yeah, somehow that car movie won. I have no idea. Fat-headed Druid in the chat, what's going on? Thanatos Felicitas tagged to say, FYI, there was a TV show in the 50s or 60s called My Mother the Car. It's a comedy where the guy's mother dies and gets reincarnated as a car. You see, but as you said, it's a comedy, and it's about a reincarnation happening, and possessed cars have happened. Like, we already... That's a concept that's been in comedies and horrors. I mean, that makes sense to me. It's a woman is having a sexual relation with a car, and then apparently someone said also there's a baby involved. I mean, that is just problematic.
A baby car.
A baby car. If I say, what part's the baby, what part's the car?
Yeah.
I mean, these are questions I shouldn't have to ask. So disturbing. Tina B then goes on to say, the Palme d'Or is their biggest award at Cannes. I think this thing is now ranked up there with Apocalypse Now and La Dolce Vita. We're in the end time, says Tina. Yeah. The fact that this movie won a similar award to those classics. Yeah. I would say at the very least. Brian Barth, ripple effect, I don't think helps to explain it because he still gets back. And so you would have to have explained that in the film. That, I think, is an external explanation that might work, but in the context of the film, I don't think it does. That being said, the one defense I can think of, going back to the comment about Back to the Future not following its own rules, is that it is a comedy, right? It's meant to be a lighthearted comedy, and it doesn't take itself seriously. And so even though it doesn't excuse it necessarily story-wise, I think it makes it more bearable or more palatable. Whereas with a film like Endgame, it's a central part of the story, and even though there's comedic elements in there, I don't think anyone would say that it doesn't take itself seriously as a movie, if that makes any sense.
Perfect.
Yeah. That's my response to that question. Thunderdog says, Mark Webb's vision of Amazing Spider-Man is something I want to see so bad. I love both amazing movies. Watch the deleted scenes and trailers, then you will see the vision. You saying you like both the Amazing films? I'm sorry, dude. Amazing Spider-Man 2 is not good, man. It's just the CGI, like actual like objective issues, not just even with story, but with makeup and everything else, really hurt that film a lot. I'm not denying that the studio didn't get involved and mess it up to what it could have been, but I don't know about that. Trent Johnson making a good point. The internet have ruined the minds of the masses. I think that's a great point. Yeah, we have literally information at our fingertips at all times, and that, as good of a thing as that is or could be, has turned out not to be the case because we don't typically use our phones and our personal computers for that, unfortunately. Mr. Grant says, the woman car movie has the byline, she was exhausted. Oh my God. No, Mr. Grant Gregory, no. Don't tell me that. Oh, please tell me that's not true. She was exhausted. So she made love to a car. Yes. If there's any time for that emoji, for that sound, yes. That is the perfect time for that. Oh, that's awful. Awful. JKW76. I'm pretty good with time travel movies, but Endlame had serious deficiencies. What's sad is they tried and failed to explain it in the movie. Yeah, that's the other issue too, I think, is that they do try to explain it. And you can argue that in Back to the Future 2, they have that same part where he's on the board, but he does kind of indicate that it's an oversimplification of what time travel is. But yeah. Mr. Grant Gregory, done with life and needed to shift gears. Tired of life, her drive and ambition lets her find love at the drive-in. No, that can't be a part of the line for this. No. So many puns. That's wow. Thunderduck says, I don't like all of it, but it feels like a real Spider-Man movie, New York and all. Okay, I can at least respect that. Stayed on podcast, JM Cruz. Actually had no idea. Y'all are the same person. I wonder if the Almanac Biff had extended until 2021 and says anything about LeBron, woke NBA failing ratings, and Space Jam 2. Oh, man, could you imagine? That would be interesting. Release the McCracken says that car really... Oh, man. That car really revved her engines, he says. Cringe. Craig Lee Experience, do you think we'll have weird sex bots integrated into cars by 2049? Blade Runner status. Also, have you seen Rubber, the Killer Tire movie? So to answer the second question, yes, I have seen Rubber, the Killer Tire movie. I love it. I think it's hilarious. It's a tire that has telekinesis and it kills people. It's just there's also just a lot of it's a very clever movie in the way that it's presented. It's very meta too. So I think there's a lot of fun to be had there as well. To your first question, I hate to say that, knowing our society, probably, and it's sad because I think that we should be focusing on improving ourselves, and I think that is just going to cause even more chaos than anything else. JKD Buck, we started with Space Jam 2. Now we're with the fornicating with vehicles on a Monday. Hey, we went there yesterday too, and it was like, how did we get to this reason? How did we get here? Mr. Grant Gregory then says she checked out his truck, so he checked out hers. Was that supposed to say trunk? I don't even think I care anymore. But anyway, I'm actually caught up with the chat there, and so I figured I'd spend the last few minutes talking to you, Mr. Andrew Hoyle. So yeah, absolutely. So what else have you been watching? Anything that we haven't talked about already that you've been watching?
What have I watched? Like I said, I watched the Venture Brothers. I've been catching up, rewatching Blackadder. I've not watched that in a while, and as I said, I've finally got my server at home sorted. So nice. I've been watching stuff on that. Okay. So no more Netflix, no more Amazon Video, or what's the other one? Apple TV. I've got rid of all that so I can just
nice. So you've just been like digitizing everything onto your server, or? Yeah.
It's not just my stuff. I've got a few. Some of my friends have given them access to it, and I've used some of their box sets that I might not have had. So I've just digitized their stuff and let them to do it. So we've got a fair few TV series and quite a lot of movies. And I use Plex for that. So I really like the interface on that.
Yeah, I love Plex, and I mentioned that before. I have my own server as well, and I use Plex with it. And it's not perfect, obviously, but I would say for what it is, especially if you have the right hardware, it is very seamless. It works as well and actually better than Netflix.
Yeah. Well, it does for me because I don't have Netflix. So.
Yeah, exactly right. But but also too, you don't get compression. so the way that Netflix works is that it might send out a 4K signal, but it then also compresses it down, and so it still might look really good on your TV, but it's not the best quality that you can find with it. So with Plex, since you can essentially just have the entire like file, like if your own Blu-ray, your own 4K even, you can have the entire 80 gig file on your server. And depending on what you have, it can play it back at full quality, like at original quality. So there really is no compression, or if there is, very minimal.
Yeah.
So you actually end up getting a better image quality with it too.
Yeah, because that's what I've been surprised with. Some of the older stuff, like I said, Blackadder is quite a bad quality, even though it is. I've ripped it from a Blu-ray box set. When I first watched it on my computer, I was like, "Oh, it's okay."
Yeah.
But then when I played it through Plex, I was like, "Hang on a minute, what's happening? It's better."
Was it because it could have been too? I know that sometimes they'll put it on a Blu-ray, but it's not actually like a Blu-ray quality. Like it's just that they put the DVD on the Blu-ray instead.
Yeah, I've got a few of those ones.
Yeah,
I've got a Blu-ray and a DVD of I can't remember what it is now. But when I was watching to see which one to put on, they looked identical. The only difference was the size of the actual files, but they looked exactly the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it always ticks me off whenever you see that happen, and that's why whenever you're buying, if you're a Blu-ray collector, always if you're buying from Amazon or from any site, always look to the comments, because those sometimes can save you from getting a really bad edition or a bad copy, because they'll tell you, hey, this is not a true 1080p version of the film. This is just a upscaled DVD version of the movie, or they'll give you a ton of information about these different releases and whether they're good or not. I would say that's one of the only good things about 4K, at least, is that 99% of the 4K releases that are put out there are usually pretty high quality. Are even if they're not true 4K, they're still going to look pretty good, because even the fake 4Ks out there are still HDR supported, so you still get better range and colors and everything. Even if it's not a full 4K image necessarily, but 4Ks typically are pretty safe for the most part. But it's also very hard to digitize 4Ks because they are massive in size. As I said, like they're over 50 gigs. Most of them are usually between 65 and 85 gigs for just the movie. And then also too, you need to be able to have the software and hardware to play it back.
Yeah. Because I was actually contemplating putting my 4K on there, and then I saw how big the files were. It's like, okay, maybe I'll give that a miss until I get a bigger hard drive to put in the Synology.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting too, because I also have a Synology as well, and my original plan was to go as long as I can with that, and to be able to fill it up and upgrade over time. And I was originally thinking about, because there's an expansion unit that you can get for it. But then I was looking at it, and the expansion unit's really not either selling well or it's not in mass production. So if you actually look at the price of the expansion unit, comparing it to like even newer models, it's actually better to get one of the newer models, which is its own server, than to get an expansion unit for the one that I have, at least. So yeah, it's kind of interesting how all that stuff works. But I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm not at capacity yet, but yeah, I have 50 terabytes, and a lot of it is filled with movies. I also have my security system into it too, but that's like, I have it where it's like 7 days of footage held and everything. So, but most of it's movies, and I think I have under 10 terabytes left. So lots of movies, because one way to fix that, because there's tons of videos online, luckily, that help people with these servers, is there's ways you can obviously use Handbrake, and you can reduce the file size and lose minimal quality. But for me, it's like, I'd rather have it at full quality and not have to take that extra step, because that can take a lot of time too.
Yeah, my one of my issues was the subtitles for some of the movies that I have, because I've got a lot of the samurai films that you've been watching, and when I was trying to rip them, the subtitles weren't working, so I was trying to find a file to put on that. But then I realised Plex actually finds the subtitles for you. So
yeah, there is a way that it can do that.
Yeah, I spent about a week trying to find the subtitles for all the films I was looking for. I realised, buggers already, they do it!
It's like there's already something built in that can help you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, because that was the other issue I came into as well, is that if you use Handbrake, it can be a little tricky trying to make sure you get the correct audio files over into the compressed version, and then also subtitle files too. So if you just do make MKV and just do a complete one-to-one rip, all that stuff's there, and so and you don't have to worry about adding anything. But yeah, Plex is great too, because even if you don't have it, they can still very much help you get that process taken care of.
Yes.
Yeah, the biggest issue that I've had with Plex is that it doesn't always match well. Now, to be fair, I don't always follow their instructions, because they're like, as long as you label it with the year in this correct way, it'll match it up almost perfectly every single time. So there's been a lot of times where I've had to go back in and change the artwork and actually get it.
Yeah,
you know,
I've spent a lot of time doing that too, changing the artwork to get. Oh, I don't like that picture. I'll change it for this one.
Yeah, and then it becomes even more tricky when you're dealing with multiple cuts. So I had mentioned this before, that I have a Blade Runner collection set, so it has every single version of Blade Runner, of the original one, and I wanted to have all of them on my server, but it's the same name and the same year, and so you have to, obviously the names are a little different. So that was one where I had to go manually in and change things and have it where it would show up in that way. And then at one point, I just got a Criterion release called The Human Condition, which is like a 9-hour film, and they broke it up into 3 parts initially, but on the Blu-ray, it's broken up into 6 parts. And there's this really great free software program called, let me see if I get the name right. So this is something that if you have multi-part films, like if it's just 2 parts, it should work well. It's called MKV Tool Nix. And what you can do is you can basically combine the files together. So if you have Lord of the Rings Extended Edition and it's 2 files, you can put them together as one, and then you don't have to worry about labeling part 1, part 2. It'll play into it. But when you have 6 files, it couldn't handle it, because some of the files have mono sound, and then some of the later ones had stereo. And the one issue that it had was it couldn't combine files that had different audio styles or something like that. So that was a bit of an issue. But then I was able to just put them all into, basically couple them together into the 3 parts that it's like on, I've mentioned this before, I have the Criterion channel, and it's broken up into 3 parts there. And so I just did it that way, and I didn't have an issue getting it to show up the way that it did.
I had an issue with a couple of things. The one was the animated Batman, The Dark Knight Returns. The one that I got is in part 1 and part 2.
Yeah. And
when I put those in, it merged the 2 of them together. But then it messed something up, and I wouldn't be able to watch it. I had to separate them. No, sorry, I had to delete them again, and then change the file names. And then pair them properly with match them up properly, and then it worked. Yeah. And the other one I had a real big issue with was Hero, the Jet Li movie. It kept pairing with Big Hero 6. It wouldn't give me Hero at all. I put the right dates in, the actors. It was just I ended up doing it all by hand.
Oh wow. Yeah, because that's the other thing, too, is that luckily there's tons of forums about how to label movies to have them show up correctly. And also, if you have like special features that you want to have included underneath it, like there's ways of labeling that in the folders. And that's why I love this tool that I found, because especially with these multi-parts, you add the files, and obviously there's like 1 or 2 steps that you have to follow to make it work correctly, but it just combines them together as one file. And it just makes it so much easier, because then it's like, great, it's going to play right into the next. And because Plex is awesome, when you skip ahead, you can skip ahead by like however much you want it to be, like 10 seconds, 20 seconds or whatever. And it's great too, because it does a very good job of saving the spot. So you can watch on your TV, and then when you finish with that and you go to another TV, it'll pick up at the same location. Or for me, if I'm watching a film that's not as a like big heavy action film, or I'm just trying to watch as much of a film as I can, like I watch it on my phone, and it'll work just fine like that too. So, but yeah, I would recommend, especially if you have any other multi-part issues, that tool, MKV Tool Nix, has worked pretty good for me.
Cool.
Yeah.
I will keep a note of that one then.
Nice. Yeah. So I think we have a few more comments here. Mr. Grant Gregory says, I got my 4K Snyder Cut Blu-ray today. Metal cover, quite happy. Oh, yeah, the Steelbook edition. I obviously am not a Snyder Cut person. I'm not a fan of Snyder's work in general. But I will say it looks pretty cool as far as the actual release is concerned. The one I'm looking out for, since we talked about it earlier, and I don't think I mentioned how much I also love Nobody. Just like Andrew Hoyle had said earlier, he likes Nobody too. Have you seen the Zavi Steelbook edition that they're going to do for it?
No.
Oh, it looks gorgeous. It's it is.
Is it the one that looks kind of like a Kill Bill cover?
Kinda. It's yellow.
Like that. Yeah.
Yeah. The main one's yellow, and I think that's the only reason why I like it. I just like the color scheme. I'm just like, ooh, that's just a pretty cover. Because I was so sad when I found out that Best Buy was not going to do a Steelbook edition for the movie. And luckily they are doing this. And the release date originally was like going to be in like December, but it's actually moved up to September. So I'm very soon going to be pre-ordering my own copy of this. But let me see if I can add another window capture here to try and capture it for everybody. There it is.
£30 here in the UK.
So for those watching right now, you should be able to see it on your screen. I just think it looks gorgeous. Let me transform this to...
Such a good film.
Oh, it is. It really is such a good film. Yeah, it's $41.99 American dollars here, but I just think it looks great. I mean, again, I think the yellow cover looks great. I think the title and the two images they have there. They also have inner. I always like when they have extra artwork in the middle too. I just think it's a great one with Bob Odenkirk. And then to see the images next to each other also as well. I don't know. I like it. I like the color scheme, and I thought the movie is perfect for what it is too. So
yeah.
But yeah, gorgeous. All right, let me go hide that now. But yeah, definitely recommend that. All right, let's see. He had some other stuff, I think. See, Stay at Home Podcast said, not sure if you'd seen Tucker and Dale versus Evil. It's a comedy movie filled with horror movie tropes and 1,000 times better than Scary Movie. I haven't. Have you seen that movie?
I have. It's very funny.
Okay. You would recommend it?
They're a pair of rednecks, yes. They're a pair of rednecks who, it's the typical, kids go to the woods to stay in the cabin, and they see these two rednecks and they think that they're mass murderers, but it's kind of like they flip it. The story, and it's very funny.
Nice.
I can't remember the name of the guy. He played Wash in Serenity.
Okay. Alan Tudyk.
Yes. That was
yeah. By the way, have you seen Resident Alien with Alan Tudyk?
No, I did put that on my server the other day, and I was going to watch that tomorrow.
I highly recommend it.
I'm through with Blackadder, so I'll put that tomorrow, because I like to put my Blackadder on my iPad to watch while I'm exercising, so I'm going to move on to Resident Alien tomorrow.
Yeah, I like it a lot because it's great to see Alan Tudyk in a leading role. I think that he deserves to have more leading roles, especially in comedies. But then also, I like the way that in certain aspects, it kind of is like it's not like anti-woke as much as like fighting wokeness necessarily. But for me, the fact that they have a sheriff and they have a deputy, and if I were just to tell you it's a male sheriff with a female deputy, and the female deputy is always smarter and is ahead of the game, you would think, oh, okay, that sounds like typical undermining. But then if I were to tell you that the sheriff is an African-American man, you realize, oh, that kind of seems to change the dynamic a little bit,
Shock horror.
Shock horror. I know. Seriously, it's like, who would have thought that would have had an impact? But it's that kind of stuff and that kind of dynamic that makes it just a good story. It's just fun. That's what it's good. It's
Cool.
just fun, which is something that we all need right now, I think. Mr.
I
Greg,
think it's just state that for me anyway, I have to find out if it's woke before I can watch it. I don't want to start watching something and then I'm like, oh, why have I wasted my time?
Oh yeah, for TV series especially, because it's like hours and hours and hours of content. And if you're like, it's like if someone were to start Game of Thrones not knowing how it ended, and having to watch all of the seasons that were really good and then get to that last one where all of a sudden you're just let down like no one else. Yeah.
Mm.
Anyway, Mr. Grant Gregory, thank you very much for the $5 Aussie super chat. He says, yes, here are some monies for a really great stream. I came here for the box office. I stayed for the car fornication talk. Of course you did.
Filthy Aussies.
I bet you're a fan of Lethal Lightning.
Oh, yeah, he's a good guy.
Much love to Lethal. Good guy. Laura Story, yes, we are. We're gonna wrap up pretty soon, though. John Edgar, because I am getting hungry. What's up? Mr. Craig Gregory, 50 terabytes and no carport. Disappointed. Yeah, well, it is what it is. Brecky Brown, what's going on? Welcome back. Mikey Guzzler, welcome back to the chat. Also got his Snyder Cut 4K Steelbook. Again, glad that y'all are happy with it. I will not be getting it, but it is what it is. JK76 says Mad Max is 42, so I've been divorced, remarried, ponytail, goatee, and Harley heading into its midlife crisis. What? Becky Brown, who likes breakfast pizza or pizza for breakfast? I actually don't. Hey. You like pizza for breakfast?
Yes.
Oh. Now, is it like actual pizza or is it like pizza bites or something like that?
I don't know what a pizza bite is, but it's the pizza from the night before.
You don't know what a pizza bite is?
No.
It's a little like pocket, like a little fried pocket, and on the inside there's sauce, cheese, and pepperoni and other things. You never had a pizza pocket or like a?
No.
Do you know what a hot pocket is?
No.
They don't have hot pockets in the UK.
I've only just discovered fire. Come on.
and air conditioning apparently as well.
Yes.
Yeah, a hot pocket. It's an easy microwavable thing essentially, and it's basically think of it as being like carbs on the outside, so like bread on the outside, and then inside is where all the stuff is. So instead of it being a pizza where it's on the outside, it's basically just on the inside. So like a calzone. You know what a calzone is?
Oh yes.
Okay, so it's like a calzone, only it's smaller, microwavable.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. There we go. It's just terminology. You probably have it. It's just different terminology. Yeah. Mr. Grant Gregory has a recommendation of MKV Extract GUI doing the same thing to merge it. I think that is actually built into what I use. So the thing that I use is MKV Toolnix. I believe it's a combination of a bunch of tools, which I think includes that one. And it does have limitations. But most films typically are going to be only one, or only going to be like 2 or 3 parts, and not 6 like I had with my situation. Because even like the official channel of Criterion, like they even only have it broken up into 3 parts, even though the actual film itself is 6 parts. So, Duck Nation, welcome to the chat. JKD Buck tagged to say, what movie do you wish was in 4K? I wish that pretty much anything by Kurosawa was in 4K. And there's some movement there. So the movie Ron is officially on 4K digital, and that was done by Lionsgate. Unfortunately, it's not on physical 4K yet. So I'm hoping that eventually happens. But I will say there's one movie that's not even available on Blu-ray to buy yet. And it was one film. It was a Toshiro Mifune movie. And actually, yeah, it was a Kurosawa movie too, called The Lower Depths. That movie, so good. So solid in its filmmaking and storytelling. That one was only ever released on a DVD by Criterion. It was a double release with the French version of the film and of the story as well. So that one is a little bit on the pricey side, and I'm not going to spend that kind of money on a DVD. So I really hope because Criterion Channel has a ton of movies in their collection on their service that are clearly high definition, like 1080p quality versions, but they don't exist yet in Blu-ray form. So I'm hoping that we can get some Blu-ray or at least 4K, even 4K editions of those movies. But yeah, anything by Kurosawa on 4K would be cool. Thunderduck, I agree. It's always fun having conversations about movies, for sure. Edward Perino was very excited when we mentioned Resident Alien. Yeah, again, it's a very, very, very good show. And with that, we'll go ahead and start to wrap things up. So, Andrew Hoyle, anything you want to say? Anything you want to shout out?
Not really. I think we've covered everything, haven't we?
Okay. You sure?
Yep. Good. Looking forward
Okay.
to next time.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you for joining me this morning, and I'm glad that we were able
No
to.
worries.
Yeah, I'm glad we were able to get this to work out, and that the Discord actually worked this time.
Yes. Finally.
Yeah, finally. Hopefully, we can get it to work with everybody next time as well.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you very much for being here, man. I'll go ahead and end that call, and then I'll finish up over here to try and catch up with all the other chats. But thank you, man, for being here today.
Thanks.
And I hope that you can cool off a little bit.
Me too.
All right, you have a good one, man.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. Well, again, a huge shout out to Andrew Hoyle for joining me this morning. That was a lot of fun having someone to talk to and bounce things off of. And again, thank you for being a part of the Chosen of Valhalla. And thank you again for being here. All right, I will indeed shout out some of the members and tagged comments as best as I can. Let's see. This is the K-Man says the next morning cold pizza for breakfast is great. I don't know if I've ever had that. I don't know. JKD76 says Mega Sodium Pocket. Yes, that would absolutely be another correct name for it for sure. He then says, we have a mom and pop corner store here that makes breakfast pizza, and it's awesome. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever had an actual official breakfast pizza, so I could probably be convinced to try that out. Thunderduck Tag says, I think I see movies in a way where I see what they could be and look beyond the bad stuff. Is that weird? No, not at all. I mean, I think it's very much, it's idealistic, right? It's a positive view, positive spin. And guess what? We need positive people in this world just as much as we need cynical people in this world. So I'll take care of the cynical stuff. And if you want to be a positive outlook type personality when it comes to movies, hey, more power to you, man. Trent Johnson says, Andrew Hoyle is just giving me more verification that the best thing to happen in the history of the United States was winning their independence from the UK. Oh, no. Pete, Dan, what's going on? Yeah, I was talking to Andrew Hoyle. He's one of the Chosen of Valhalla members in the UK. And he has not been able to join us for the past few streams. And so I wanted to make sure I was able to get him on at least get him on a stream so that way we could talk about movies he's been watching and commentary and stuff like that. So hopefully, Mr. Hoyle, you enjoyed that conversation. I know I enjoyed that conversation a lot. So thank you again for being here. Mr. Grant Gregory says, Toshiro Mifune was great in Lower Depths. Dude, yes. Almost everyone there is great in the Lower Depths, for sure. Yeah, the one issue, because someone was asking what the name was, the one issue with the Discord versus what I was going to try and do with Skype was my plan was to try and do Chosen streams through Skype, but when I asked who has a Skype, everyone's like, I don't have one. Is that there's a way to use OBS where I can basically import the video feed from individual persons from Skype into OBS, and I was planning on actually having like an official an actual overlay with boxes to put the people and then have the names underneath everyone too, so that way everyone would know who was who. And that was the only issue I could really find with Discord, is that I don't think that's an option. I don't think I can feed video in the same way. But yeah, that is definitely one of the issues, and I wish there was a way that I could fix that other than just through introductions. So basically, if you're here from the beginning, you know who everyone is because I do introductions always. But if you come in later, then yeah, I can see how it can be a little confusing. Let's see. Snort Poopers, you have a good one. Thank you again for joining today. The Craig Lee Craig Lee Lawrence Experience says Asgard is the Holy Land, but us lanterns are the core. I get that reference. I understand it. I've never understood the hate for Skype, says commenting is dangerous. I don't know if it's hate necessarily. I think it's more so that they just don't have a Skype. And again, it's one of those things where it's like, why people don't have a Twitter, why people don't have a Google account. I mean, people have different interests and different things that they would use. And obviously there's 1,000 different video apps out there that not everyone would need to actually be able to use Skype. I mean, when you think about it, anyone with an iPhone is going to be like, why would I ever use Skype? I have FaceTime, right? So it actually makes a lot more sense. But I think any issues with Skype in general would be more so from like a creator's perspective, is that for a long time, the video and audio, especially the audio quality, would never really be that great. But I think they've made a lot of strides, especially during the pandemic time, to try and make it a lot better. Craig Lee Experience that says, and GarageBand. He said another word too, but I won't say that one. We keep this channel clean, good sir. Yeah, exactly. Tina says, I don't mind Skype, I just never think about it. So maybe that's something that we can plan on doing. And again, that's something that I want to play around with first before I do any movement whatsoever. Trying to ask any of the chosen to get and sign up for something that they wouldn't otherwise need to. And obviously the Discord worked perfectly fine, but if there's a way I can make the Discord work where I can have it work the same way that I'm trying to make it work through Skype with having boxes and things like that, maybe I can make that work. But anyway, yeah, we had a nice longer show this morning. And I've been getting updates. It seems that baby Thor is doing well at daycare. He's eating, using the restroom, had a nice long nap as well, which is very, very exciting to see as well. So again, I want to say thank you to everyone for joining this morning for the Good Morning Asgard podcast. And yeah, we're going to be only really a couple weeks left of the Good Morning Asgard podcast at the regular times, unfortunately, because school is starting up first week of August. So we will do the very best that we can to continue on Good Morning Asgard in whatever way we possibly can. Most likely it would have to be moved to Saturday mornings, most likely, to be able to keep it going as such, because I would like to keep it going. I don't want it to just be a summer thing. I do like being able to dedicate more time to it over the summer. But thank you again for everyone who has supported this stream and has supported it throughout the summer, and for the fact that we've had some pretty good numbers the last couple of times. Especially, there was one day we almost hit over 100 people. We had like over 80 people watching at one point today too. So again, thank you very much for all of that. And yeah, this will always remain live. And so if you wanted more information, because obviously the title is talking about Space Jam 2 and Black Widow box office. We talked about that at the very beginning of the stream. So if you want more information about that, obviously that is going to be something that you can do. And yes, I do post these as podcasts. Craig Lee Lawrence Experience. I do post these as podcasts. So my main show is the Welcome to Asgard podcast. That is posted on all major podcasting platforms. Good Morning Asgard podcast is posted. I also have the OMB Report, which is my news and politics show I do on Thursday mornings, and that is also uploaded as a podcast as well. If you check out my website, ombreviews.com, I have links, I believe, to all of those different podcasting places, and also the episodes get posted there to those places too. So ombreviews.com is a good resource to find those things. I have fallen a very far way behind, though, on episodes for, I believe, OMB Report, at the very least, Good Morning Asgard for sure I've fallen behind on. So you'll probably get a bunch of episodes uploaded very, very soon from recent times. But yeah, thank you very much for asking, man. Yeah, dude, rock on. And Tina, thank you so much for being here this morning. She is the Empress of the Universe. She is one of the mods. She is fantastic. And also, Laura, thank you for being here earlier as well. I don't know if you're still listening or not, but thank you. And again, a huge shout out to Andrew Hoyle, one of my chosen of Valhalla, for joining me as a guest this morning. It was a very good conversation, and I was glad that we were able to finally get that to work. So anyway, you guys are all amazing, beautiful people. Again, thank you all so very much for being here today. And since I was not able to do it yesterday because I did run out of time, I had remembered, but I just knew I was not going to be able to shout out the YouTube members because I was just way over time yesterday, or at least what I had planned to. But a huge shout out to the members on the channel who are at the Army of Asgard level and above, as it's part of the perks of being a member at the level. Shout out to Gonzalo Bergali, Soul Extraction, Nico Blue, and Forky, George Moilo, Mondo Spieler, Grimm's Math, Riff Magos, Wicked Plumber, Sean McD, Gomer Kyle 79, Your Muslim Uncle, Kara Tharp, Dadman Walker 55, M Tax Shark, Forever Sci-Fi, Rosie G12, Andrew Hoyle, Eric K, Orange at Reviews, Adam Avery, Jay Stowe, and Aiden Vickery. Thank you all very much for joining this morning. Your guys are all amazing, beautiful people. Love you for being here. Tina B, go get some sleep, and I will go eat some food because I am hungry. Anyway, you guys are great. Have a wonderful day, everybody. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my July Patreon and Subscribe Star members: Andrew Hoyle, Biffer de Hobbit, Brian P., Dion, Don Bruno de la Mancha, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Harold Francis, Inflamed Wood, It's a Trap Productions, Jason Clark, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toone, Jonathan Carney, Laura the Modern Major General's Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin with the beautiful hair, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Riff Magos, Rosetta Allen, Teresa Martin, Theodore Bendon, Tina B, and Tina Bojan. Thank you all very much for supporting me over on Patreon, and also to my Subscribe Star members: Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, John B, Perpetual Punster, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, J. Rod the Beer Guru, and ZK Man. And I also want to make sure to shout out my Locals members. I am now available over at locals.com, and I've got 2 monthly supporters over there. The first of my local supporters is Goblin Squatch. Shout out to you, good sir. And also, I now have a second supporter over on locals.com, and that is Robert Barnes. Shout out to both of you very much. Thank you very much for supporting me on that new platform at the Keeper of the Bifrost level. If you want to find out more information about that, go check out my Locals page. You can find the link in the description, and it tells you everything that you would get in that Keeper of the Bifrost level, which is right now the only level available on that platform. And I also want to make sure to shout out any new Patreon members, and for right now, I want to shout out Mondo Spieler, who is my newest member over on Patreon. Thank you all very much for being here today. And if you want to have your name shouted out at the end of every single live stream and video on the channel, please make sure to check out the links in the description of ways that you can support me over on Patreon and Subscribe Star as well. It gives you access to things like giveaways of Blu-rays, 4Ks, and digital codes. Also, access to a podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger, where we have a lot of fun. We also answer Q&A questions as well. And also you might get access to the Chosen of Valhalla level, which gives you access to a once-a-month podcast exclusively where I bring on you to the main channel with everyone else who is at the level, and we all just talk about movies, pop culture, and tons of fun stuff like that. And also, of course, Tina, who is the Empress of the Universe, is going to give us tons of reviews of movies and also maybe a couple of awesome rants here and there as well. So if that sounds fun to you, make sure you go ahead and check out those links. Again, you're all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.